Chris Evans and the Shadow That Sits. Part 1. The Shape on the Couch. Chris Evans noticed the shadow on the third night. Not because it appeared suddenly, but because it never moved. 1. The living room light was off, as it always was before bed. Only the glow from the street lamp outside leaked in through the curtains, painting the furniture in soft gray outlines. Chris stood in the doorway, keys still in his hand, staring at the couch. Something sat there. Not a person. A shadow. 2. It had shape. Shoulders. A head tilted slightly forward. Hands resting where knees should be. It sat exactly where Chris usually sat at night, watching the blank television. Waiting. 3. Chris didn't panic. That came later. At first, he assumed it was his own shadow, stretched oddly by the angle of the light. Old apartments did that. Corners played tricks. He stepped to the side. The shadow didn't shift. 4. Chris turned on the lamp. Warm yellow light filled the room. The couch was empty. Nothing sat there. No impression in the cushions. No movement. 5. He exhaled, shaking his head. Too tired, he muttered. He turned the lamp off. 6. The shadow was back. Same position, same shape, same patience. 7. Chris's throat tightened. He reached for the light again and flicked it on. Empty couch. Off. Shadow. On. Empty. Off. Shadow. 8. The pattern held. The shadow only existed when the room was dim. Not darkness. Dimness. Like it needed just enough light to be seen. 9. Chris backed away slowly, heart pounding. "Hello?" he said. The shadow didn't react. Didn't turn. Didn't breathe. It just sat. 10. Chris grabbed his phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam cut across the couch. No shadow. The couch cushions looked normal. But when he lowered the phone, the shadow returned. Closer now. Its knees nearly touching the edge of the couch. 11. Chris felt a strange pressure behind his eyes, like being stared at without eyes. He took a step back. The shadow did not follow. It didn't need to. It was already where it wanted to be. 12. Chris slept with the lights on that night. He avoided the living room entirely. Still, at 2:11 a.m., he woke up with a distinct sensation of being watched. Not from the doorway, from the direction of the couch. 13. The shadow did not enter the bedroom. That bothered him more than if it had. 14. The next night, Chris tested it. He turned off every light in the apartment except the bathroom. The living room sank into dimness. The shadow sat on the couch. 15. Chris stood in the doorway, arms crossed, forcing himself not to look away. "I can see you," he said. The shadow remained still. Then, something changed. 16. Its head lifted slightly, just enough to notice. Chris's breath caught. The shape was wrong now. The proportions no longer matched his own shadow. The shoulders were broader, the neck longer. 17. A sound came from the couch. Not a voice, not a breath. The faint creak of fabric, like someone adjusting their weight. 18. Chris stumbled backward. The shadow stayed seated, but for the first time, it felt aware. 19. Chris locked himself in the bedroom, heart racing, hands shaking. He did not sleep. 20. At exactly 11 p.m. the next night, he heard it. The sound of someone sitting down from the living room. 21. Slow, deliberate, as if the shadow was finally comfortable. End of Part 1. Part 2. When it learns to stand. Chris Evans did not turn on the lights that night. He stayed in the bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed, listening to the apartment breathe, because it wasn't silent anymore. 1. At exactly 11 p.m., the sound came again. The couch creaked. Not old furniture creak. Weight settling. Someone sitting down carefully, adjusting themselves until comfortable. Chris stared at the bedroom door. The shadow hadn't crossed the threshold before. That rule mattered. He needed it to matter. 2 minutes passed. Then hours. Nothing else happened. No footsteps. No whispers. No movement. Just presence. Like something sitting patiently, aware that being noticed was enough. 3. Chris's phone buzzed. 11:47 p.m. He flinched violently at the sound. His reflection stared back at him from the dark screen, wide-eyed, pale, tired. Something behind his reflection moved. Just slightly. 4. Chris lowered the phone slowly. The hallway outside his bedroom looked longer than usual. The living room beyond it was dim, washed in gray streetlight. The couch was barely visible, but the shadow was. 5. It sat differently now, leaning back. One arm draped along the backrest. Casual, familiar, like it had been watching this room for a long time and finally decided to relax. 6. That's my spot, Chris whispered. The shadow didn't move, but Chris felt something tighten in his chest, like offense had been taken. 7. He noticed something else then. The shadow on the wall beside him. His shadow was wrong. It lagged. When he raised his hand, the shadow followed a fraction of a second late. When he lowered it, the shadow lingered. 8. Chris swallowed. No, he muttered. He waved his arm again. His shadow hesitated, then copied the motion. 2 deliberately. 9. A soft sound came from the living room. Not a voice. A sigh. Satisfied. 10. Chris stepped back into the bedroom and shut the door quietly. The latch clicked. The sound echoed louder than it should have. Almost immediately, the couch creaked again. The shadow shifted, standing up. 11. Chris's breath caught. He waited. Nothing crossed the doorway, but the hallway darkened slightly, like the light had been adjusted to accommodate movement. 12. Chris pressed his back to the door. Don't, he whispered. The word felt foolish the moment it left his mouth. 13. His shadow peeled itself off the wall. Not fully. Just enough for him to notice. The edges blurred. The shape deepened. 14. Chris slid down to the floor. His shadow remained standing. 15. A sound came from the other side of the bedroom door. Not knocking. Fabric brushing wood. Like someone standing just outside, deciding whether to come in. 16. Chris squeezed his eyes shut. This couldn't be happening. Shadows don't move. They don't sit. They don't wait. 17. The door handle turned. Just a little. Not opening. Testing. Chris screamed and scrambled backward. The handle stopped. The pressure vanished. 18. Silence returned. Too sudden. Chris listened for breathing. For footsteps. For anything. Nothing. 19. He stayed awake until morning. Didn't blink. Didn't move. When sunlight finally filled the apartment, everything looked normal. The couch was empty. The hallway was just a hallway. His shadow behaved correctly again. 20. Chris laughed weakly. Sleep deprivation, he said aloud. He took a shower. Got dressed. Tried to convince himself the night had been a dream. 21. That evening, as the sun began to set, he noticed something. The couch cushion was warm, as if someone had just stood up. 22. And on the wall behind it, 2 shadows. One sitting, one standing. End of part 2. Part 3. It learns its shape. Chris Evans stopped trusting light. That was the moment the apartment truly became dangerous. 1. Daylight no longer reset anything. Morning came, but it didn't erase the feeling that something had stayed behind after the night packed itself away. The couch looked ordinary. The walls behaved. His shadow followed him correctly, most of the time. 2. Chris tested it in small ways. He raised his hand slowly. His shadow followed. He dropped his hand suddenly. The shadow hesitated, then complied, a fraction of a second late. 3. He told himself it was stress. The brain misfires under exhaustion. Perception lags. Shadows blur. He repeated those explanations while brushing his teeth, while making coffee, while standing very still in front of the bathroom mirror. The mirror showed only one of him. That helped. A little. 4. The first real break happened at dusk. Streetlight on. Apartment dim. The exact condition where the shadow preferred to exist. Chris stood in the living room, watching the wall near the couch. The shadow was there, sitting, waiting. 5. "I'm not afraid of you," Chris said. That was a lie. The shadow shifted, not standing, adjusting, as if the words had required a response. 6. Chris took one step to the side. His shadow did not move with him. It stayed seated, still, comfortable. 7. "Get up," Chris whispered. The shadow leaned forward slightly. That was all, but it was enough. 8. Chris backed toward the hallway. The shadow on the couch stayed where it was, but the shadow at his feet, his shadow, stretched, lengthened. Its head rose up the wall beside him, neck elongating unnaturally. When Chris stopped, the shadow kept growing. 9. He ran into the bedroom and slammed the door. The light flicked on. The shadows snapped back into place. Normal. Flat. Obedient. Chris slid down the door, shaking. 10. That night, he dreamed of sitting on the couch. Not sleeping. Just sitting. Watching the television glow with nothing on it. Feeling content. Feeling complete. 11. He woke up on the couch. The television was off. The apartment was dark. The clock read 11 p.m. Exactly 12. Chris sat up slowly. He didn't remember walking out of the bedroom. Didn't remember sitting down. The cushion beside him was indented. Warm. Occupied moments ago. 13. The shadow stood across the room. No longer seated. No longer waiting. It was standing near the hallway, watching him. 14. Chris stood. The shadow didn't copy him. It was already upright, already ahead. 15. He took a step forward. The shadow took a step too, not mirroring, matching. 16. "No," Chris whispered. The shadow tilted its head, an unmistakable imitation. 17. Chris turned on the lamp. The light flared on, and the shadow did not disappear. 18. It thinned. It faded slightly, but it stayed, anchored to the floor like a stain that refused to lift. Chris felt his stomach drop. 19. "Light doesn't work anymore," he said. The shadow moved closer, not walking, sliding, like darkness poured across the floor. 20. Chris backed away until he hit the wall. The shadow stopped inches from his feet. It didn't touch him. It didn't need to, because he felt it already. A pressure in his chest, a pull behind his eyes, like something rehearsing how to wear him. 21. The shadow lifted one arm. Chris did not. The arm stayed raised, independent, confident. 22. The shadow opened its mouth. No teeth. No tongue, just depth. A hole where sound went to learn how to speak. 23. When it spoke, it used his voice. Soft, familiar, accurate. "You sit better than I do," it said, "but I learn fast." 24. The couch creaked. Behind Chris. Something sat down. 25. Chris screamed and ran for the door. The apartment lights flickered violently. Shadows broke apart, collided, reformed. The shadow did not chase him. It didn't have to. It already knew where he would go. 26. Because it had practiced. Every night. Sitting. Watching. Waiting. End of part 3. Part 4. Someone has to stay. Chris Evans did not leave the apartment. That was the shadow's first victory. 1. He stood in the doorway, hand on the knob, heart pounding hard enough to make his vision blur. The hallway outside was lit, normal, alive. Escape was one step away. Behind him, the couch creaked again. Slow. Intentional. A reminder. Chris understood then. Leaving wasn't forbidden. It was discouraged. 2. He let go of the door. The moment he did, the pressure in his chest eased slightly. The shadow did not move closer, but it felt pleased, like something that had just confirmed a theory. Chris turned slowly. The shadow sat on the couch again. Perfect posture. Relaxed. At home. 3. "You want me here?" Chris said hoarsely. The shadow didn't answer. It leaned back, crossing one leg over the other. A gesture Chris made without thinking when he was comfortable. That was when panic turned into something colder. Recognition. 4. Days passed. Or maybe only nights. Chris wasn't sure anymore. He stopped sleeping properly. He stayed awake until sunrise, then dozed on the bedroom floor with every light on. Whenever his eyes closed for too long, he woke up on the couch again. Always seated. Always facing forward. Always comfortable. 5. The shadow began to change the apartment. Not physically. Behaviorally. The television turned on by itself at night. Static only. No sound. The couch cushions shifted subtly, molding themselves deeper, more permanent. Chris noticed he stopped sitting anywhere else. Chairs felt wrong. The bed felt distant. Only the couch felt correct. 6. One night, Chris stood in front of the mirror. His reflection looked tired. Older. Behind him, something dark sat low in the glass. When Chris stepped aside, the reflection stayed seated. 7. "I won't switch with you," Chris whispered. The shadow stood. Slowly. Gracefully. For the first time, it cast a real shadow. Long. Solid. Heavy. 8. It walked toward the couch. Sat down again. Then spoke. Not in his voice this time. In a voice that sounded like many voices trying to agree. "Someone always stays." 9. Chris backed away. "Why me?" The shadow tilted its head. "You noticed me," it replied. "And you watched." 10. Memories surfaced. Nights Chris sat alone, lights off, staring at nothing. Letting hours pass without thought. Letting himself disappear without leaving. The shadow had been there then. Learning. 11. "You gave me shape," it continued. "I gave you rest." Chris felt his knees weaken. "No," he said. "I stayed awake." The shadow's mouth curved into something like a smile. "You stayed still." 12. The lights dimmed. Not darkness. Comfortable dimness. The couch seemed closer now. Inviting. Chris felt exhaustion pull at him like gravity. "Just sit," his body suggested. "Just for a moment." 13. He resisted. "Barely." "What happens if I sit?" he asked. The shadow considered. I stand, it said. 14. Chris imagined it. The shadow walking outside, using his face, his movements, his life, while he sat, watching, forever. 15. Chris laughed weakly. You don't need me. The shadow leaned forward. I need a place, it said. You need to stop. 16. The apartment shook, not violently, but decisively. Shadows thickened along the walls, pulling toward the couch like iron filings toward a magnet. The world was narrowing. Decision time. 17. Chris looked at the couch, then at the door, then at his own shadow, now slightly delayed, slightly wrong. He understood the rule fully at last. A shadow cannot exist alone. Someone must give it meaning. Someone must sit. 18. Chris took one step toward the couch. The shadow stood up. Ready? 19. He stopped, turned, and walked to the window instead. He threw the curtains open wide. Streetlight flooded the room. Hard, bright, unforgiving. 20. The shadow screamed. Not aloud. Viscerally. It collapsed inward, thinning, stretching, tearing away from the couch and snapping back against Chris's feet. For a moment, he felt weightless. 21. The couch went still. Empty. The room felt wrong, but quiet. Chris slid down against the wall, shaking. 22. Morning came. Real morning. The apartment looked normal. The couch was just a couch. Chris's shadow behaved correctly again. 23. Chris moved out that day. He didn't pack much. He didn't look back. 24. The apartment was rented again within a week. The new tenant noticed the couch first. How comfortable it was. How it seemed to remember people. 25. At exactly 11 p.m., the couch creaked, and a shadow sat down. End of part 4. Final part. The seat is never empty. Chris Evans never returned to that apartment. That did not mean the shadow stayed behind. 1. For weeks after moving out, Chris slept with every light on. Hotel rooms, friends' houses, temporary rentals. Everywhere felt wrong in a quiet way, like a chair left pulled out, waiting for someone to come back and finish a conversation. But nothing followed him. No shadows sat where they shouldn't. No couches creaked at night. That should have been relief. It wasn't. 2. Chris noticed the change slowly. He no longer liked sitting still. Silence made his skin crawl. Whenever he sat on a couch for too long, his chest tightened, as if something inside him expected weight beside him. Expected company. 3. One evening, months later, Chris visited a friend. They talked late into the night. Laughed, drank, relaxed. At 10:58 p.m., Chris stood up abruptly. I need to go, he said. Why? His friend asked. Chris didn't answer. He was staring at the couch. 4. At 11 p.m., the cushion dipped. Just slightly. No shadow appeared. No darkness gathered. Just the faint, unmistakable sign that someone had sat down. His friend didn't notice. Chris did. 5. He stopped visiting people at night after that. Stopped staying anywhere past dusk. He learned to keep moving, because movement kept the seat empty. 6. Years passed. The story faded. The apartment was renovated again. The couch replaced. Walls repainted. Lights brightened. New tenants came and went. Most didn't stay long. They complained about feeling watched, about never feeling alone, about a strange pressure in the evenings. No one mentioned shadows. Not at first. 7. Then one tenant stayed. A quiet man. Kept to himself. Spent long nights sitting on the couch. staring at nothing. Neighbors noticed he stopped going out, stopped answering messages, stopped leaving. 8. When they finally checked on him, the apartment was empty. No signs of struggle. No signs of departure. Just the couch. Warm, indented, occupied moments ago. 9. Chris read about it online. A short article. No names. No details. He closed the page and sat quietly for a long time. Standing. Always standing. 10. That night, alone in his own home, Chris noticed something new. Not a shadow. Not a shape. A space. On the couch across the room. An absence that felt deliberate. Prepared. 11. Chris did not sit. He never sits for long anymore, because he understands the rule now. It was never about darkness, never about light, never even about shadows. 12. It was about stillness. Long enough stillness creates a place, and places remember. 13. Somewhere, in some apartment, at exactly 11 p.m., a couch creaks. Someone feels comforted. Someone feels less alone. Someone sits. 14. And somewhere else, a shadow learns their shape. The end. Have a nice day. Thank you for watching.